I'm very clear as to the kind of person I am and the type of services I want to be able to deliver. And in this conversation I had with another founder, I was then asking, okay, yes, so I mean, you are clear, but what's the size of your business in relation to the quality of client talents that you want to retain? So remember, at some point, I mentioned that I'm mostly an introvert when I'm not at work. I'm at
Yeah.
work. You would not believe if I told you I'm an introvert, right?
Mm.
So that sort of extends into the kind of services and the kinds of brands that we provide services to,
Mm-hmm.
right? We work with business to business organizations.
Okay.
So if there is a business that provides services to individual mass market, we would not work with them, right?
Okay.
Because the service requirements for brands that engages or provides products or services to
Mm.
mass market,
Directly
the
to
service
consumers.
requirements consumers, yes, the requirement is a bit
How
different. You have to
expensive.
talk a lot. You must always be out there. You are always on. Do you
Mm.
see? At the time when I started, because it was really just me doing the work, I'm not an always on person. I'm more of a strategic, say one thing and let it sit with the person, dwell with it, right? It leaves you thinking. FMCG PR services is not like that. You must always be out there, you must always be in their faces. I mean, I could not imagine. It's the same reason, for example, why we don't provide services to hospitality businesses, to lifestyle businesses, right? Hospitality, I'm an indoors person. I don't even understand the happening places. We don't do music because I'm not that type of music person. I mean, generally, conservative businesses are our own. That's our thing. And at the time we started, PR in Nigeria was not niched. You see, so again, I had a lot of pushback from some of the senior people I spoke with. Anywhere money is coming from, do it. Don't spoil my life. Do you see? Because if I started providing services to these kinds of businesses that I don't have an affinity with, I will fail. And you have mentioned it correctly about value. If I don't think I can provide value to you, I'm not going to come near you. And I'm very upfront with clients. And that's something that is critical. One of our values at Musron Communications is transparency, even Nigerian women in PR. If we get a brief, we cannot do it. We will tell you this is the extent of work that we can do. We are also very ethical in our service provision. One of the things I always remind my team members, right? And for the few businesses that have worked with us, particularly when it comes to crisis management, if you stole money and you are looking for a PR firm to help you
To
wash your
laundry your
image,
image.
no, no, no,
To
that's not it.
launder your image. Okay.
Very interesting scenario.
Mm.
In Nigeria a while back there was quite a bit of crisis for crowdfunding platforms that were not able to pay back returns. And again, crisis, you really can't come to the front to say, "Oh, I'm the one who managed this." But I directly managed some of those crises, either consulting or directly managing them. And then there was one that came to me, where I was invited to manage that crisis for them. And okay, I see that you guys cannot pay. That's fine. What happened? Why can't you pay? Why did you not pay? And it was bad investment. Okay. Before we can take the brief, I must see your books. All of these conversations happened before engagement. Do you see? I must see your books. I must have concrete evidence that the reason you are not able to pay back investor money is not because of
It's real.
mismanagement.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It's not because somebody stole and then you're looking for somebody that can speak
Mm.
English and no
Mm.
strategy to help you cover it up. Right? I believe that as a public relations consultant, I have a responsibility both to the general public and to my clients. Right? It's a lot of conversation around it, but I don't believe that it is fair, whether to the general public or even to the client, to do things that is advantageous to my client at the detriment of the general public, because my own reputation is also at stake, right? one can then have that conversation about, oh, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. And then I say, thankfully, I'm not a lawyer. If I were a lawyer, I'm not sure that this stance would also be different. If, however, somebody says they are not able to pay because we mismanaged and we want to tell the public the truth, I'm happy, right? Because first you have acknowledged that you did something wrong. What
Mm.
you are then inviting us to do is to help you manage the impact of the
Communication
fallout,
and impact, yeah.
not to help you cover it up and speak grammar to confuse people. No, I wouldn't do that. Right? So there, all these filters are really there first to help us manage our own reputation, right? As a service provider, if you are not an ethical business, it is very likely that we will not work with you. It's not even very likely we will not work with you, right? And so what he also does is to help us filter the quality of clients that come to us, right? So it's business to business, it's social impact as well. One of and the reason we started doing social impact was because at that time also, when organizations were talking about social impact, it was more about, oh, let's give them shoes, let's go and do an event, and then give people food, and then we've done impact talk. And the question for me was always, so after we eat, what else? What next? How is this thing going to change people's lives? And so the fallout of that was number one. I then started Nigerian Women in PR, essentially to provide me a platform really to deliver impact as I thought it should be delivered. Do you understand? So it's so interesting. My businesses are really like an extension of the thing I desire to see that I didn't really find. And while instead of waiting for somebody to do it and show it as a template so that if anybody else wanted to do it, they can follow this process or this platform that you've created, as opposed to just saying it and saying it, and then they'll ask you, if he is you do am how do they
If
even
you
say
don't
it?
do
If
it.
he is you do am, yeah. So
If
nobody
you
can come back and tell me now if he is you do am. I don't do am several times, and I'm here.
don't,
If I'm telling you it works, it's not because it's theory. It's because I've put all my money where all my mouth is, and I
is
can guarantee you that it works. We have all these checks. And it was some of them was also based on experience. So, like I said, we provide services to organizations and C-suite executives.
yeah.
Now, when I started, we didn't have any criteria, as it were, for
Mm,
the C-suite executives. If you're a senior executive and you wanted us to deliver personal branding, or now that we call it
mm,
executive branding, then we would if you could pay us.
mm.
Until we delivered for a couple of people, and I realized, C-suite has category. Do you
Okay.
see? Yeah. So today at Mosron, if you
Mm,
don't have at least 15 years experience as a
mm.
C-suite executive, we would not provide services to you. If you
As
came
a-
to us and said, "Oh, as an executive, an individual,"
There
so
must have
C-suite,
been
yes.
there must have been a
No, no, no,
role at C-suite level for
no.
15
You
years
must have
or
worked
cumulative. Okay.
cumulative 15 years.
Okay.
Because after working in properly structured places for 15 years, there's certain things you know. Of
Yeah.
course, there's also the financial responsibility there. After
Hmm.
15 years, you're at a certain level where you're likely able to afford our services.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spend a lot of time doing the pitch and all of that. And then I send you my invoice, you're like, Tolu, this is my salary for the whole year. I mean, that's a waste of our life. Let's not do it, right?
Mm,
Just so, again, but that was something we learned because we made mistakes of not having those checks, right? And the other part of it is for an executive who has not had that level of experience in terms of years and actual hands-on work, it's difficult for you to get them to say something that is honestly sensible, that is newsworthy. Now, remember that it's executive branding, and our executive branding service is really establishing these executives as thought leaders in their industry. How can you be a thought leader with 5 years experience? What are you thoughting? What are you leading? What have you done? Exactly. Nothing. You are still learning. You should still be reporting to like three, four persons, five persons. There's no leadership in that amount of experience. Even though today, I mean, if you check online, everybody is a personal brand, everybody is a leader. But I mean, there are now checks and there are things that you will know if this one is fluff, if it's AI that wrote the article, or this one is coming from experience. And this one came about because I mean, we had an opportunity to pitch to the BBC. It's so interesting. And they responded to us. And then they were asking us, so what has this person really done? Where's their track record? Unfortunately, I mean, they were doing impact work. They could see the work. It was 3, 4 years, but this person was so young. There was no other experience backing up the work that they were doing. And the story didn't fly. Right now, for a PR or a communications professional, you know how the opportunity that you have to pitch to BBC and they respond is almost once in a lifetime, particularly for those of us from this side of town that does not have a contact, because that's the other thing. We were sending these pitches not because we knew the people at the receiving end, but we were because of the value or the worth of the story.
Sorry.
And we packaged it and we sent it. They responded, but our clients did not
And then they
have
double click and they're
they
like,
didn't have enough
wait.
background. They didn't have the
Mm,
weight to carry this global visibility. And that's
mm,
another thing that we do at Mosron. Many times you have prospective clients come to us to say, "Oh, Tolu, I want to be on channels. I want to
mm,
be on CNN." First of all, a client who comes to us to say, "Tolu, I want to be on channels," we don't work with you. Why?
mm,
If you know the answer to your problem, you should just go ahead and do it. You don't need a
mm,
consultant. That's why
mm,
Mosron is not styled as an agency. You see, I
mm.
believe that agencies are implementation
Partners.
partners,
Mm.
right? They just implement, meaning that the business leaders have sat in
There's
their
a
offices,
strategy already.
they've done the strategy, and they're looking for people to implement. We don't
Mm,
do that, right? We, as consultants, you come to us with a business problem. This is a challenge my business is having. We then sit down with your business and look at it end to end, right? Because you may think you have a communication problem. It could be a staffing problem that you have. It could be that when people are calling your team members or your customer care, they're just chewing gum in people's ears, and then you say you have a communication problem. Or your website is always down and you say you have a communication problem. Those are internal things. So, in terms of the process, one of the key processes that we do, we make sure that the internal processes of our clients are ready first. You are ready for the visibility we are going to bring to you when the
yeah.
public interacts with you,
Otherwise, it's a
right?
waste of time.
Otherwise,
Mm.
you are just going to, beyond waste of time, you are going to have a crisis on your hand,
Yeah,
right?
because
You that we should
well,
still be packaging in one small corner. Let the world not know that you have
yeah,
problem. You now go with how you that your big problem. You now amplify it. You have
absolutely,
amplified your problems. That's
absolutely.
crisis. Then
Mm,
you'll say your PR person didn't do the work. No, they
mm,
worked based on the information you provided to them, but
mm,
they failed you because they did not tell you that you have problem and that if the
absolutely.
world sees this problem, your business will go down. We
Mm,
don't do that. If
mm.
your business has a problem, we encourage you to resolve that internal issue first.
Fix this
Be
foundation.
ready, right? I mean, you have clients who have never had a profile; they don't have professionally shot headshots. As
Mm,
simple as that. And you
mm.
say you want to go on channels. What picture are they going to put on the flyer? We should use
Mm.
iPhone to take it. Of course not. Do you see? Something as that. So we plan photo
Mm,
shoots, we do up your company profile, we do up your professional profile for the
mm.
CEOs. All of those are internal work that is not seen by the public. But that's a beginning of PR work
That's
to make
valid.
sure that the client or the individual is ready for public interaction.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Tolu. We don't have a lot of time. Thanks a lot, Tolu.
Wow, I thought this thing was going to be a long time. What were we going to be talking about? Okay,
But Tolu,
I've repented.
uh, you know, just a quick question on that, right? Let me ask you two questions, right? And then just try and answer them. So number one is around uh so I know that you have this filter through which you see your client base and all of that, or potential clients and all that. But do you see a time in the future where, yes, ethical is not going to go anywhere and all of that, but perhaps that you can begin to serve other kinds of clients, maybe business to consumer kind of client. Maybe you have a division. So I'm not putting ideas in your hand. I'm just asking, but is this a possibility in the future as the practice becomes bigger? Number one. Number two is around the quantification of your impact, right? Because I think if I read, I think I read a couple of your articles here and there, and you're quite articulate in the way you write some of these things and how you are able to quantify some of those, the value that you bring to the table, right? Now we know that the very substance of your of PR is not like sales, right? I can say I sell this number of cases and this is what comes in and all of that. Or finance, I help you cut this and no, it's a bit different. But how are you able to, you know, bring some numbers to the potential impact that you deliver to your client, right? Such that, you know, they just continue to come back because they know that no, each time we work with Tolucomms, we get this X uplift. I don't know if it is that specific, but I'm sure you get the point.
Yeah, I hear you. So first about expansion in terms of service areas.
Yeah.
Well, so if you asked me this question last year, I'll tell you categorically no. That in fact we're double clicking on even niching down further. You see,
Uh
because as at last year, yeah, as at last year, I started to do a bit more research about public relation practice in the
mm,
UK. And you know, there's some practice areas that I found that
and there's even
is
more
not
work and
no,
more
no, no.
niche and
That
more.
is not even that is not anything that we are thinking about in Nigeria. And I'm like, you
Mm,
see, I like things that are not common, that is just for a small set of
set
people.
of people.
Once it becomes mass market, I don't like it. I don't like because everybody can do it. But I mean, I found these guys and I was blown away. And I
Mm,
was asking myself, gosh, I mean, if you own because once you get into a space and you do it well, you own the niche. Anybody coming is after you.
yeah,
You see, or you
absolutely.
get into that space, nobody else understands how it works.
Yeah.
After you, na still you.
Mm.
That's the type of business
That's how you know you.
now you is just your own. I like that type of ownership, right?
Yeah.
That's why I found this. I even reached out to the agency partners, right? Because it was so niche, it was beautiful. But then I had a conversation this year about how I'm very clear as to the kind of person I am and the type of services I want to be able to deliver. And in this conversation I had with another founder, he was then asking, okay, yeah, so I mean, you are clear, but what's the size of your business in relation to the quality of client talents that you want to retain? Because if one is not then careful, you have a practice that does not really cater to the aspirations of its talents, right? And I've been very blessed. I mean, I've had a few fails in terms of recruitment, but largely, yes, largely I've been blessed really to have some very fantastic young talents, young people who have worked with me. But what I found right actually is that like average stay time is like 18 months. And at the beginning it used to be a problem for me because how dare you go after doing so much? Because once you come in, I mean, there's just a lot to teach, right? And if you're really open to learning, there's a lot it's literally like you're going to the university. I had somebody who came in once and she said, "Oh, if she because she came to do an internship after she did a professional course in PR." And she
Mm.
was like, "Oh, if she had known, she would have just come here directly for internship instead of doing that course." No, because I mean it's very in-depth.
Value they got. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's very detailed. But after a while, you see, the career aspirations of the talent that I bring into the company also then needs to be considered, right?
Mm.
If you want to grow, if you want to provide services or you want to work with certain kinds of brands, if Mosron does not provide that platform for
Then
you
they'll
to work with those
leave.
brands, then they would leave.
Mm.
So it's still something I'm thinking about. If so, just like you said, maybe now thinking about admitting people into partnerships where they sort of manage certain areas
Yeah.
so that the brand that we've now built sort of provides leverage for these new
Yeah.
divisions to take place.
Absolutely.
It's something I'm thinking about. It's not something that I've necessarily
Fully processed.
um, fully processed. Because the question then also is it's very possible for you to stay in a niche area and just own it for life, right? So
It's
it's one or two.
it is.
It's
I mean, you are the expert in this, so I won't even try to
yeah,
offer you free
yeah,
consultancy, right? But it is. But the it will not continue to be niche, right? Because remember that
yeah,
you're training people. People are coming through your
yeah.
organization.
And they are
Yes,
going to do their own.
some of those guys
They
will
are
even
going
show up very
to
close to you.
yes, 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 and they can do what Tolucomms is doing. Well, to an extent,
Right. They can
because
do what
again, if it is not, what's that, how do you, if you don't mention the brand name,
yeah,
if
if it
it
is
is
not
not
this, it
a
cannot be
painkiller,
this. Yeah,
if
yeah.
it's not a painkiller, it cannot be that painkiller,
I
so
understand. I
like that. But
I
I hear you. I hear you. I mean, so again, when I started Mosron, very interesting, because at that time also there wasn't any consultancy styled PR firm in Nigeria as such, right? Most of them were agencies. So I didn't even have a template to plan the business around. And what I did was to go look up the structure of KPMG. Do you see? Because they are consult. So in my mind, actually, what I'm building is the KPMG or the PwC for my industry, not an agency at all. Do you see? Now I'm aware, obviously, that KPMG too is not also staying on their lane because they are now providing branding services. And I'm like, guys, leave small room for us. So where are you? Where are you going? Right? But now they have communication managers, and I'm like, accounting, right? So I'm thinking about that. Like I said, as at last year, I was even thinking of niching down further. But with conversations and just engaging with other business leaders who are asking deep questions, I'm now rethinking what that would look like in terms of a structure. And so it's not closed. It's not something that is impossible. It's not impossible, but it's still something that I'm absolutely thinking about. In the short term, we're still as we are. But absolutely, I'm not closing the door to anything.
Olufemi,
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Your second question was about something
around
like,
was around what? How do you quantify your impact?
thank you. You see, when you were asking that question, I smiled.
Yeah, you
One
smart.
of the interesting things about PR is that people are, so what do you bring to the table? That one, most of the time, they ask it in relationships.
Yeah.
If you're an in house communication person, each time you are ready for appraisals, because I faced it. So, what have you done this quarter? Remember how I said, as a communication person, when I was in house on the client side, I was vocal, sensibly, because I can never come to an appraisal and the question you are asking me is, Tolu, so what have you done? The fact that you're asking me that as appraisal, it means I was quiet. My impact was not seen. No, 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 no. If I come to an appraisal, you are not asking me, Tolu, what have you done? Tolu, how can we make sure that you do this more? It's the type of conversations I have at appraisals. Do you see? And so, what I found out very early as a communication person in Nigeria, number one, your clients don't know, and your employers, right? Your clients don't actually know most of the time what to ask of you that is of value to their organization because they're not the experts. Many employers or even clients, they engage public relations or communications people because that's what people do. What do you want the comms person to do for you? If you ask them, it's more about media engagement. Oh, I want to be on channels. I want to be in the newspapers. That's really what many organizations assume PR is. And you see the interesting thing, how we flip it at Musron. Media relations, if you ask me what services we provide at Musron, media relations is like number 4. It's all our top 3 services. There's easy money, beautiful money. But anybody can do it. If you have money, you can be on any channel in Africa. You can be anywhere. So I then ask myself, if any other person can do the work that I'm doing, then that cannot be the work I'm going to dedicate my life to. There has to be something more to it. Right? And so remember how this my process of finding my target audience, the guys who could make the decisions where I post content, check who is reading. I created something similar in terms of tracking results. The last place I worked, the last place I worked at, because I mean at that time I was mostly the one using LinkedIn, and it wasn't because they required it; it's because I was using it for myself, and I was the head of communications, and it was a real estate company. So we had tried doing ads because that's marketing. We had run ads and it wasn't really converting. I think it was 2017. I posted an article that I wrote myself about real estate. And I talked about how I'd never experienced a landlord coming to knock on our doors to say rent is due because that wasn't something I had. I ever thought about as a child. It was something that my parents sorted out. Do you see? And I posted that article. Bottom line, it was a call to action. Come and buy our own properties. That's what the gist of that was. I was the head of communication. By the time I posted that article, that post on LinkedIn, it was 2017. I think the company got some 200 plus leads from my posts. They didn't ask me to do it. Again, remember that normally I post on LinkedIn anyway. Do you see? 200 leads that would have cost the company money in adverts because we're also running adverts. But these were people who could directly relate to the story I was telling, right? And is what how I found out that storytelling is so important and your ability to connect your own experiences with the aspirations or the thoughts or the challenges of your readers, who are your target audience, can unlock crazy value that marketing cannot unlock. Do you understand? Why would anybody then ask me, Tolu, what have you done this quarter? When I'm coming back to you with 200 leads that your salesperson with all the advert money did not deliver, you can't ask me, right? So what I also started to do when we do content posting or we publish a newspaper article for an organization, we don't look at the newspaper publication in isolation. How many people then went to search for the CEO on LinkedIn, right? Because we would have been tracking. You see, one of the challenges that generally either PR people or general business people face is that there's not a lot of attention on tracking pre-activities. You only track when an activity is done. But what are you measuring it against? Nothing. You don't know what it was before, so you can't really see how effective this one is. Right? So for something as little, for clients who allow us to do that level of um, tracking and surveying, what was how many people were connected to your CEO, for example, a week before we posted? What was their engagement, their content engagement like?
And
How
then you
many
see the
people searched
trend.
them that week? And then we publish a newspaper publication,
Mm,
and then we check it 1 week after. How did that change? You cannot
mm.
tell me that, oh, people just woke up one day and then started commenting on your CEO's post, or people, he moved from 50 searches this week to 350 searches this next
just
week after we
just
posted.
like that.
And it doesn't have anything to do with the newspaper publication. It's cause and effect, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many things now. So for business to business organizations, one of the questions, and I still had that conversation the other day. I was brought into a meeting. We had this speech presentation to the client, and of course,
Mm.
finance people, they are the bane of our existence. So what are we going to get? What are we going to get from this? Because you are telling us to spend all this money, do what's it called? Newspaper adverts,
What's the
do this, and this
ROI?
is what's the ROI? And then I say, well, I mean, that's a valid question, sir. That's a valid question. If I tell you to spend 90 million, it's fair for you to ask me, so what am I getting? But I can't answer that question and tell you are going to get 180 million. You know why? Because while these activities will not directly bring in money, I can show you categorically how it will lead to money. Here's how. You're a B2B organization. Your guys have gone out to sell. Before you started doing anything around PR and communications, it would sometimes take your salespeople 9 months to 12 months to close a sale. And then and then we start PR activities. And suddenly your sales guys are closing in 3 months. They are closing sales in 6 months. And you're asking me, so what's the impact of PR? Oga, let's talk the truth to ourselves. You know how? For example, if a salesperson was going to take 12 months to close a sale, likely because that prospective client has never heard the business before, doesn't know the founder, doesn't know the antecedents of this business, nothing. The salesperson is going to spend more time, more energy, first bridging that knowledge gap. I need to tell these guys about my business. I need to show workings of my company to these people before I can even start selling. What PR does is to answer those questions for you. You have heard us on radio. You're always seeing my CEO's content on LinkedIn, right? If you go outside, we're on the billboard. There is knowledge, there is a foundation of knowledge that we have created that your salespeople are going to build on. It's not blank. They are not coming on a blank canvas. What PR does is to provide that foundation of knowledge, or to further provide a knowledge base or reference materials that your prospective clients can reference. We are not going to create it each time for this prospective client. No, we have a knowledge bank, right? Either it's in form of a CEO interview, or a CEO is speaking in an industry recognized platform. Or you see, because something as simple as taking pictures with certain kinds of people positions you differently in the minds of people. We too, we know people. That's what it means. Let people see you with people that matter. It's a PR strategy, not just because people feel like doing it. It's just that these days people overdo it, or they take pictures with people that don't really matter, but that they assume matter. Because imagine taking a picture with a fraudulent person just because he has money. We already know that you two are fraudulent. You see, all the proverbs that we have in Africa, they are aligned. Birds of the same feather flock together. And that's why in PR, either strategy development or in consulting, you think about the kinds of people that your CEO or the business associates with. Because whatever reputation that other one has, you have also carried it. So if they don't have a good reputation, you have carried their cross. If they have a great one, you are going to borrow from that reputation bank that they have and leverage it for yourself. And many people have done it. Fraudulent people um, associated with good people,
Mm.
right? And suddenly they've been washed. You know how
In a sense,
people
yeah.
launder money and they wash the money.
Mm.
PR can wash people's images if you do it well. And
Mm.
that's where ethics come in, where we don't do that.
Do that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is very clear. So you're very, I mean, to just kind of wrap it up, that particular point. So you are very
Mhm.
intentional in
Very.
tracking the non necessarily not non financial metrics, right?
Yes.
That has the
Yes.
potential to, you know, lead to conversion and lead to business and
Yeah.
all of that. Because that, I mean, that is what you're paid to do
Yeah.
anyway. So you're not like going to be
Absolutely.
the sales guy who is going on the field
Absolutely.
to go and look for the money.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
we're not
And
doing very,
sorry, let me just add, it's so interesting. So
yeah.
for some 3 years now, I'm working on I don't know what the name is called. So it's interesting. I wrote the NIPR, the PR exams, but sometimes the terminologies in the industries is not something that I'm necessarily familiar with. Do you understand? So sometimes when I do something and then maybe it's years later I hear that there's a name for it. We have been doing it. I didn't know you had a proper name, right? So for some 3 years, 2, 3 years now, I've been thinking about codifying this process that I have. And I'm working on it now. And I mean, so that it becomes an industry standard. There's a part of PR that is measurement and evaluation. And there are certain theories, right, that back it up. And yes, that you use to measure it. I'm creating my own model, as it were, for measurement. And it's so interesting, and it involves several teams, right, within an organization, because the essence of PR is not, or comms is not a service, or is not a profession that on its own can stand. PR itself is a combination of the activities of several other units for you to really see the value of PR. And right now, there is really no model, as it were, that recognizes the input of other units. And that's why when I engage my team, and if you are ever going to leave and you're going to the client side, I tell people that you can't say that you're a PR person and you're isolated. Oh, you don't talk to marketing, you don't talk to sales. Your failure is coming, they're going to fire you, right? Because your work will not have any results if you're not engaging marketing, if you're not engaging sales. You must be able to connect the work that you're doing with the results they are getting. Otherwise, sales will wake up one day and say, oh, I sold 1 trillion products, not knowing that PR contributed like 50% to it. But because you are not talking to sales, sales will take all the glory, and you cannot question sales because they brought in the actual money. But where comes is not engaging sales. You are in the blind. Or you will then be hearing them saying, I posted on Facebook. In 2025, you better be doing more than posting on Facebook.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring, and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and to see you on the next episode.